here to discuss all things NRL and anything sports related. Please give a warm Aussie g'day to the footy fanatic and America's own Corey Jackson in Outside the Sheds.
Greetings and salutations and welcome back to Outside the Sheds, the show that keeps on giving and giving and giving and giving. Now I could probably keep saying that time and time and time again because Shedheads, I'm feeling good. We're rolling. We're coming up to round 21 after we talk about and put round 20 to bed. I'm excited. I told you last week that this is going to be a special run home. I said that we're going to see things in these final 6, 7, 8 rounds, 7 rounds that are going to leave us with our mouths agape a little bit, us scratching our heads. But I think that delivering the package, the gift that we're going to receive for the ending of this NRL season is going to be something memorable. I like I said, I've been immersed in this game since 2010. And I know a lot of you watched the game way longer than I have. But I'm a little bit different because I just dive in. I have to learn it from the roots, from the ground up. I have to find out about players. I have to find out about team history. I have to find out about everything. Because I was taught by my parents early on in life that if you want to be a master at something, you better put 10,000 hours into it. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. Especially when you're the other side of the world. That's a lot of late nights when everybody else is asleep. That's a lot of looking up information that, quote unquote, nobody else around me is probably going to know. But out of all this time that I followed this game, there's something about this season that just has me on edge. And not in a bad way. It just has me on edge because I don't know what's getting ready to come next. I'm saying we've seen leads that a few years ago were insurmountable, that teams have made it look easy running down. I'm thinking back, and I know this is going to be brutal for some of you. I'm thinking back to that Raiders and Bulldogs match. When the Baby Greens are running home, and in the second half, it's a totally different game. And the Bulldogs kind of cemented to the NRL and to the rugby league world that they were for real. But that's the type of stuff, and that was just one off the top of my head that I'm thinking of. There's been so many comebacks this season. No lead is safe. Every team is on edge to the standpoint where they don't feel like they're safe when they've got a 2-try lead or whatever. So I just really feel, and we're going to go into this when you do a little bit deeper dive about how I think this season's going to finish up. But it's just been memorable. It really has. And I know I've been fortunate enough to start my season in Vegas these last 2 years. Already set up for my trip coming up in the first week in March. My New Jersey Devils won't be in town this year, but that's okay. But it's going to be memorable, and I just don't know what's going to happen. Really. I really, really, really don't. And I keep looking. And when I was doing some of my research for this episode, I'm looking at some of these matches that are in our future, and it's going to be insanity. I'm saying for the next 7 rounds, we're going to be talking about this could be the match of the round. This could be the match of the round. This possibly might be a game of the year situation, and that's what we're about ready to experience. Now, before I get ahead, and that's already 3 false starts. I'm already kicked out of the 100-meter dash, but let's go over round 20. Your Shedda getting back in the flow. You know how I get hot late in the season. 5 for 8 with the picks this week. But it started off Dolphins 43, Cowboys 24. I'm going to say this right now. I don't know if they're going to make the finals. I don't think any of us do. There's a crystal ball. But possibly, besides the Baby Greens, the most dangerous and fast team in the competition are the Dolphins. It's not even a close race. It's those 2 teams. The Baby Greens and the Dolphins can strike from anywhere on the field. They're dynamic, and we got to see that again. And I have to admit, I'm not tipping my hand, but watching Jake Averillo get slotted into the halves to play alongside what maybe the best up-and-coming have in the competition was something special. And I really didn't know. I've watched Jake since he's been back with the Dogs. I've never thought that he got a fair shake in the game. Kind of got jettisoned from Canterbury. But the speed that Avarillo has, and Avarillo never takes a playoff. Never takes a playoff. And I'm telling you, it showed from the jump. Speed kills. And the Cowboys, I know we're looking at one of the worst defensive teams in the competition, which I'm sorry to say because I do like Todd Payton a lot. But that performance that they've had these last couple of weeks, which were some key games, that team just hasn't stepped up enough defensively to really bring it home. I know they keep, myself, I'd have Clifford in the halves with Dearden. I know that, everyone keeps saying Purdue is the half of the future up in North Queensland. But to me, Jake Clifford just balances that team out a little bit. And Purdue may be the future in some people's eyes. He might not be in my eyes, but I just think that there's something missing when he's in the halves. No matter how much of an attack weapon he is, the problem for the Cows is they don't need attack. They need to shore up that defense. So anyway, they got jumped, whatever you want to say. They couldn't keep up with the Ferrari, and I'm not talking about the Forbes Ferrari down with the West Tigers. But it was a great match, and it was a great match if you wanted to see speed, if you wanted to see, and I'm one of the ones who kind of put a fork in the Dolphins after Nicarima went down because he had such a good dynamic combination in the halves. But I think Avarillo could really add something to this team and make them even more dangerous than they were before. But a solid victory. I don't even need to say the hammer because that's all that guy does is score tries. Him and Avarillo getting the doubles apiece. It was just a good win for the Dolphins. They're back on track. They might be the most, again, besides the Baby Greens, the most dangerous team in the strike in the competition. Sharks 31, Roosters 18, a huge clash for that top 8 positioning. I knew that the Chooks could be in trouble when we heard that Zavala was out and that Chad Townsend was going to come in, replacing him, which was a little surprising because I thought Sandon Smith would definitely slot back in there. But, and no matter how much I like Chad, it just... I don't know if they thought because, he was taking on his former club that he won the premiership in 16, or if they thought his long kicking game would be a little bit better than Sandon Smith's. I don't know. But either way, it just didn't work out. And the other thing about it is, this is the second week in a row, we're starting to see this Sharks offensive team really just get into form. There's a confidence that's you can really feel permeating from this side where they think they can go with anybody. Nico Hines is playing with an edge. Tricky's, still kicking really well. And we know the guy that we need to be talking about is Braley. I know right now he just turned down a new contract that was proposed to him by the Sharks. I think that's going to get done. But he is a special dummy half. And I watch him all the time. And he's just, you look at a lot of them he has. I think about guys like Robbie Farah and guys that just look like they can make tackle after tackle after tackle. They're solid, blah, blah, blah. And Braley is just he looks like a thin guy that's out there and fast for sure. But to play that dummy half, that hooker position, you've got to be tough as nails. And he just doesn't look like his body fits that, the criteria that you're supposed to have. But he is constantly on the attack. And since he's taken on that real domineering role of being able to run whenever he thinks it's time, that team has been on the front. And they showed it again. The Sharks, it was a good first half. Both teams were like trading back and forth. But the Sharkies pulled away, and they looked dangerous more and more time they get the ball, they get the strike going. It's just they're a solid team right now. And I'm going to go in, like I said, I'm going to go in this deep dive here soon about what I think is going to happen in the back end of this season. But great victory for Cronulla, up. Panthers 30, Rabbitohs 10. Even without Cleary and Yo, the Panthers win 6 in a row. And I don't know. I think of all my picks last week, the easiest one to pick for me was this game. Because Latrell's out, they haven't even put a timeline in when he's coming back. the Habs are just a wreck there right now because Cody Walker's not playing. They don't know if they should bring Jack White in, Jack White out, Jack White in center. Lewis Dodd now is talked that he's going to start in the Habs this coming week. But this team right now is in such disarray. They've got so many players out of the team right now. They just, they're a shell of an NRL side because they just don't have a lot of bullets in the gun. And I know how great Wayne Bennett is, but Wayne Bennett doesn't walk on water, Shedheads. He doesn't. He's just a coach, and he's not making any tackles for this club or making any deep penetrating kicks. So it was, to me, a no-brainer. Even, and it allowed Ivan Cleary to see this and to rest Yo and Cleary so they can be rested up even more for this downhill march that are getting ready to do towards the finals. But a great victory for the Panthers. But again, I think another eyesore, eye-opening for all NRL people that are really paying attention to this, that the Bunnies are really lost. And I think this end of the season is going to be kind of brutal if you're a fan of South Sydney. Raiders 40, Eels 16. Stewart and Patty both getting a double. The Baby Greens were in a little bit of tussle in the first half. Hats off to Josh Adokar. That guy, the Fox, has been playing lights out footy all season. They just don't have a lot of results to show for the hard work and the constant positive play that he's brought to the field this season. But, the Raiders there's a reason they're top of the table right now. They are the most confident team, I think, that I've seen right now in the competition. They have the most strike of any team in the competition, and they are dog dangerous when it comes to defense as well. And that's why, no matter if some people blow me up and question if this is real, I say time and time again, the Baby Greens, from the first round of the season when I saw them live in Vegas to round 20, have been the most solid team in and week out. Most solid team. Every week. Play in any type of condition. They just don't take a step backwards. And that's why I think they're the most dangerous team and the team that's going to do the most damage. But I'm not giving away. I'm not tipping my hand, Shedheads. I'm not. No matter how much you push, I'm not tipping it yet. Bulldogs 20, Dragons 18. In another heartbreaking loss for St. George. You saw it, Shedheads. I thought this was the Smoky. I thought this was my sleeper pick, that the Dragons were going to pull the upset, and they were so close. Two calls that I'm not going to really get into because I said this week I'm going with a non-bash approach right now, or at least for this week. So we're not going to talk about any of the officiating. I do think that there was a couple tough calls on that last series that went the Dogs' way that kind of helped them stay alive. But, everyone's going to talk, my gosh, has anybody talked about more than Lachlan Galvin? Well, at least this time we're talking about him for production. And that was a good cutout pass that he threw. He also got a try during the game. But, he nailed it down. That was a great pass. And some people say that, Toby Sexton might not have been able to make that pass. I don't know. I just know Toby Sexton had them top of the table when he was the 7 for that club. So, great victory for the Dogs. Maybe not a victory that they deserved, because I think from bell to bell, the Dragons were the better team. But again, winning is everything. And sometimes it's not going to be your best looking match. Sometimes you're going to need breaks to get that W, but they got it. And that's what winning teams do. They find a way to manipulate victory, and they got it. So big victory for the Bulldogs, and again, heartbreaking for the Dragons. Sea Eagles 18, Storm 16. Manly getting a huge win. Huge win. I just didn't know if they had that type of potential. I didn't know if they had that type of ability to do what they did. But they got it done. And that's all you can say. That they go down to, Melbourne, play a tough match, played it totally in their face, and got the chocolates. That's all you can say. They got the chocolates, and that type of victory, that type of win, is what truthfully separates the men from the boys. It really does. It's just good stuff. And I got to say, it caught me off guard in a couple of things because one of my favorite matches ever is the Battle of Brookvale. The punch up that happened, the Stewart brothers, Adam Blair, just rugby league history right there. That's all you can say, rugby league history. But I didn't see it, but I will say this. To me, the thing that really came to the forefront about this game was two things. Again, a referee's call. I started this game where it was a rough game. Now, no one's saying the NRL isn't tough right now, but the way that that game ended with the dangerous contact on Harry Grant, it just leaves a foul taste in your mouth. When you watch a game that these guys are putting their bodies on the line, Luke Brooks didn't fake anything. He didn't roll around on the ground like he got shot with a sniper's rifle. Matter of fact, the entire time, his eyes never left the ball after he kicked it, right? So he wasn't even thinking. He didn't look around for a referee like he had been violated. He didn't look around going, hey, did you see that? Did you see that? Nothing like that. He just thought he missed the kick. And we were already starting to get into play to see, and then all of a sudden, here it comes down. And for a game that is that pivotal for both of those clubs, it was, to me, it just kind of was a black eye. It's just not what, to me, I want games to end like and how I want them to end. But it did, and you can't say that 100% the law wasn't followed, but discretion sometimes is what's needed for an official. And I just think that was bad all the way around. I hated it. But that doesn't change the fact Manly gets the victory, and the Storm had plenty of chances. But again, there's one thing that really stands out about all of this. And to me, that is this. Melbourne is having incredible, tough times playing at night. And I don't know what it is. They've never before, in the time that I can remember, shown such a weakness in a club when they play with the lights down, when they play with the field being a little bit soft and wet and moist and all that type of stuff. They're not the same club compared to a club when they have a fast, hard, dry track. And it leaves me scratching my head because that is not a good sign for them going forward. Not when it comes to the back half of the season like this. The home stretch, as we say. And this could cost them. I think this really has the ability and the chance to cost them and really, possibly ruin the rest of their season. And maybe not letting it come all the way and, I guess finish out the way that we thought that it possibly had a chance to. But it's going to be interesting to see. But a great victory for Manly, no matter how controversial it was. Tigers 21, Titans 20. In a match that had major implications for the Wooden Spoon. All right? I'm going to say this right now. That victory, strong performance by Talon, but that victory right there, Tigers fans, probably gave the don't argue to the Wooden Spoon. I think that was enough for the Tigers to push off the bottom of the ocean and start to look for the top of the surface and breach and get away from that Wooden Spoon that's been shackled to their right ankle for the last couple of seasons. But Adam Dewey, again, no matter what you say about the guy, no matter if they seem that they can't find a position playing in number 13, he showed again that he might be the best player on the Tigers team for the 2025 season. I really mean that. Sad part is I don't know if he's even going to be with the team next year because I don't think they can find a place really for him, and they've kind of been lowballing him contract-wise and stuff. So I know that this has really been a tough season for him in the standpoint where the respect he doesn't feel has been there, and his service has not been acknowledged by the way that they have not come to the table with a contract for him. But that has not stopped him from week in and week out playing great footy. And his boot, again, kicked him clear and got him the victory over the Titans team. And I don't know if any of you Shedheads saw the Inside the Sheds, not outside the sheds this time, inside the sheds, with Desi Hasler blowing up right in front of the Frizzell family, getting his team out of the showers, which is fascinating. I don't know what's going on down under. I guess everybody showers in their Speedos, but that's something else. We're not talking about it here on this show. I tell you that right now. But that, to me, showed Desi, I don't want to say he's lost control of the team, but that this team is just really in shambles to an extent. They play tough at times, but if you look at their run home, this is going to be a tough end of the season for Desi Hasler and the Gold Coast Titans. And finally, Warriors 20, Knights 15. I don't think you can really put into words how tough of a week it has been for the Newcastle Knights. From Ponga to Adam O'Brien to all of a sudden some stomach bug going through the club where they only had 5 players at the captain's run because everybody else was sick. You couldn't even write a story that bad. What is Stephen King writing the stories, the annals of the Newcastle Knights? Because you couldn't wish that upon your worst friend of a week. But again, it's just Newcastle. They just haven't done it easy, and they haven't done it easy all season. But you can't take away the heart they showed in that game because they had that game in the bag. And I'm still shaking my head thinking, I had to show it to Mrs. Shedadamus. And she doesn't really, she's a big supporter of your Shedda, but she doesn't sit down and watch the matches with me. She knows a lot of the players, and she loves going to live matches and all. But she couldn't believe even how that match ended. A charge down that's picked up and returned. I don't know if I've ever seen that right at the buzzer like that. To be the try that seals the match. And when you watch the faces of the Newcastle boys after it happened, they were like, what else? What next? What else could happen for our season? Because the way they played that game, and Dane Gagai rolling back the years playing the fullback position, and I can't even say that I've got, my Newcastle gear all hanging around the house. But I felt horrible for him. And the Waz, if you look on the other side of the coin, that is one of those type of victories that makes you start believing you could be a team of destiny. And we might have just saw that as well. Because those boys thought the game was over. And one player picked up the ball, threw everybody on his back, and drove all the way to the try line like the Griswolds in their 1978 Chevy, whatever the hell you want to call that, wood paneling vehicle. He had everybody in there, the whole Griswold family, and he just put the team on his back and scored that try. Maybe RTS could have run a play like that where he made people miss and just went straight aggression to get across. But a huge victory for the Waz, especially a victory they probably didn't deserve, but they got a lot like, the Bulldogs. Very much a lot like the Bulldogs. But incredible week for your Shedadamus and picks. But round 20 again had everything that you wanted and then some. Now, going into the deep dive of this, Super Sunday and that late game on Saturday hammered my point home about the 2025 season, and we just went over that. But the unpredictability, the excitement that we get time and time again, like I said, from the Grant injury, from him allegedly clipping the leg, to Adam Dewey, to, the try of maybe the season with the charge down. It has just been that way from time to time again, and I can't remember a season that's really run like this, where it's just unpredictable. Now, the thing about this is, I wanted to go over the ladder first, and then I'm going to do something I haven't done for a while in this show. Right now, let's go over the ladder and the points. Sitting in the first position, Raiders with 34 points. Dogs at 2 with 32. At 3, the Storm with 30. At 4, the Warriors at 30. 5, the Broncos at 26. 6, the Panthers at 25. 7, the Seagulls at 24. 8, the Sharks at 24. 9, the Dolphins at 22. 10, the Chooks at 22. 11, the Dragons at 18, 12, the Tigers at 18, 13, the Cowboys at 17, 14, the Knights at 16, 15, the Bunnies at 16, 16, the Eels at 16, and finally, rounding out the tide, at 17, the Titans at 14. Now, the reason we went over this and why I want to go into this is because some of you have reached out to me. Not just Willow. And like I said, Willow, I hope that leg is still healing up and you're starting to do your squats 450. I'm thinking that's where you said that you were aiming for to get that squat rack at, but I know you're going to get there. But Willow and a few other listeners have really pushed me because they wanted to know, Shedda, please tell me how this season's going to end, how the top 4 is going to finish, how the 7 and 8 is going to be knocked out. So let's start it off. Let's go into the 7th and 8th. To me, there are 4 teams in that race, and that's the Sea Eagles and the Sharks, who are right now sitting 7th and 8th, 2 points ahead of the Dolphins and the Chooks. I'm going to say this right now. I'd say the Sharks are going to finish in 7th place. They have the easiest remaining schedule of all of the teams that we're talking about right now. They're facing only one team in the current 8 in their remaining 6 games, and that's the Bulldogs. And that's why I think it's a no-brainer why the up Cronulla boys are going to finish in the 7th position. Now, the battle for 8th is a heck of a lot more tricky because, and that's not Braden Trindle tricky either, but that's going to come down to me a war of attrition of who's going to come out and who's going to be able to hold their water the best, because some of these teams have brutal schedules and brutal runs home. The Seagulls are facing 3 of the top 8 sides, while the Finns and the Chooks are facing 4 teams that are in the top 8. So think about that. None of these teams are going to get into that 8th position without getting cut a little bit and shedding a little bit of blood. Like that is a murderer's row for these guys. Now, why I think that 8th is going to be such a brutal position and how going forward it's going to make a huge difference for the team that makes it there is I'm going to take Manly, first off. I think Manly, with only having 3, I think it's not an easy run home, but a little bit easier than the other 2 sides. But any one of those 3 teams that I have battling for the 8th position, for them to get there, I think they're going to have to give too much to get into the finals, and I don't know how much they're going to have left once they get there. And that's just being real about it. I know it'll be a great honor that they make it into the 8 because the footy they're going to have to play to get there is going to have to be some pretty stellar footy. But that still doesn't change the fact that I think that that gas tank could be on empty by the time final starts. So I'm taking the Sharkies to finish in 7th, and I'm taking Manly to finish in 8th. Now for the top 4, I'm not taking a step back when I say this. And I know some of you don't believe and you think I'm just saying this, and I don't say anything on this show. Let's say that right now. I do not say anything on this show for clicks. I don't say anything on this show for to make somebody a bigger fan, that I'm a fan of a team or an organization or a player, because I do love some certain players, and I have some teams that I do root for. But when I do this show, you're going to get straight, honest facts. And I'm going to call people out the way that I need to call them out. I'm going to call teams out when I think that they're playing horrible footy. And I don't care if I like that team or if I don't like that team. And if a team that I don't even care for is playing great footy, you're going to hear me say, man, that team has shown some incredible heart and they're playing great footy. Now, with that being said, I am not taking my foot off the gas that to me the Baby Greens are going to win the minor premiership. They're going to finish first. And what makes it even easier for them is they have the easiest of the run home of the top 4 clubs right now. They only play one team in the top 8 in their final run. That's it. They're gonna. I'm not gonna say they're gonna coast because it is still rugby league, but they have the easiest run, and it's been talked about that they're gonna be able to rest some players probably. They're going to be able to go into the finals fully healthy, and that is going to be key for them to make a deep run like I think they're going to. But I have the Raiders finishing first. Now, finishing second is something totally different. But I will say this right now. Of the team that I think will finish second, and I look at the numbers, and I'm looking over, because I actually have a chart that I put together to do this segment right now, Shedheads. I'm going with the team that has the second easiest record, or I should say future schedule, not record, future schedule, and that is the Waz. I have the Waz finishing second. They only have one top 8 side that they're facing on that run home. And I just think that victory last week against the Knights has really got them believing, and the trajectory that the direction that they are going is not going to take a step back. The Waz are going to finish in second, and I don't think that's even a tough choice for me to make. Now, the third and fourth spots, that is where, to me, this gets really, really difficult, and I think we're going to see the most amount of movement, too. Because right now, sitting in third, boy, I'm going like this. And let's think about it this way. Right now, it's the Storm and it's the Bulldogs that are in third and fourth. I have both of those clubs falling out of the top 4. That's right. You've heard me say this. I said it before when I said this. It's the schedule. It's the schedule that makes it tough because the Storm have to play 4 sides in the top 8 in their final 6 games. All right? The Bulldogs have to play 5 teams in the top 8 in their final 6 games. I think it's too much. Especially how both sides right now are not playing their greatest football, and that's going to cost them. I have the Broncos finishing third, and I have the Panthers finishing in fourth. And if you look, both of those two sides, the Broncos and the Panthers, even though the Panthers have the tougher schedule between them and the Bronx, I still think that, 6 in a row right now, being able to rest Cleary and Yo, I think the Panthers they're ascending. And I think as long as Reese Walsh stays healthy, because to me, Reese Walsh is the key for the Broncos. The footy he's been playing the last 4 weeks has really shown me that he's going to be a major catalyst. He's even nicked up pretty well. I think that knee, I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the season if he doesn't go under the knife for an ailment in that knee. But that being said, it hasn't slowed him down once the game started. He might be hobbling around during the pregame, but when he flips it in gear and maybe they give him a painkiller shot, I don't know, maybe he takes a couple Fruity Pebbles vitamins, I don't know. But he looks like he's in full strike when the game starts. But I do think that there's going to be major movement, and I do think that both the Dogs and the Storm are going to fall out of that third and fourth position, making way for the Broncos in third and the Panthers in fourth. I feel comfortable about those picks too, Shedheads. I really spent some time. I looked at all of the rosters of all these teams that we've talked about. But I'll leave it with this, though. And this is something I think all of us know following in this game. One injury to players on these sides, and everything is in jeopardy. If the Broncos lose Walsh, if the Raiders lose Kyle Weeks, that's how important certain players are for some of these teams. But if these teams stay healthy, I think that's the way that this is going to finish. I think it's going to be, again, on top, Raiders 1, Waz 2, Broncos 3, Panthers 4, and in 7th and 8th, Sharks in 7, and Manly in 8th. And I'm going to stay with it. There you go. Write that down, record it, whatever you want to do, so you can come back and fact check the Shedda at the end of the season. But that's what I'm going with. Now, Shedheads, as we go into the 40-20, the upcoming Ashes games are just a few months away, and all the stadiums are sold out, which is so great to hear for rugby league. We want this game to become, international. No matter how much we love the NRL, and don't look at me about coming over to the United States talking about the Tomahawks or the Hawks or whatever those poor boys are calling themselves now. After talking to a couple guys that play on the team in Vegas, I would not be expecting anything positive to come out of those teams, no matter how tough they're trying to lift the level of the Divided States team. But we're talking Ashes right now, and with sold-out stadiums, the Kangaroos have finally found their man, their skipper going forward into this Ashes, and that man is no other than the great Kevin Walters. Kevin Walters has been named as the Kangaroos coach for the Ashes Tour. Now, here's the kind of funny thing about this. Kevy's only signed a contract for 3 matches. So that means right now he's only penned in to be the head coach for all 3 games in England, right? Now, Kevy, the cool thing about him is, he played 11 tests for the Kangaroos, so he's donned the jersey himself. I know the pride he takes about being a Kangaroo, and to be able to coach. I'm saying he's such close friends with Mal Meninga as well. It means a lot to him to follow in the footsteps of Mal, but also to coach the national team. But I think the other reason you might see that Kevy's only signed a contract for 3 matches is because I think Kevy wants to be an NRL coach. We talked about this, where I think that he's the front runner to be the head coach of the Gold Coast Titans going forward. But I don't think it's just a matter of Peter Volandis and the powers that be going, well, let's just see what Kevy can do and we'll just sign him for that. I really think Kevy wants to see how this figures, how this fits, and also, how the end of the NRL season finishes, to see if he possibly is about ready to change his moving and his new home zip code to the Gold Coast area. But it's going to be really, really interesting to see. I know that there's a lot still at play. Who's going to opt in? Who's going to opt out to play for the Kangaroos in the Ashes series? And a lot of that's going to come down to who finishes the season healthy and who goes deep into the playoffs if they're going to want to just rest up instead of get ready to play, footy in another month after the season ends. But I'm really happy for Kevy. I think he's going to do a great job. I do think these Ashes matches are going to be tough and they're going to be close. But I'm really, really interested to see how he navigates and steers the boys going into the Ashes round. So congratulations to Kevin Walters. Now, something that I hate to say, but I'm happy to say at the same time, because even though this has been a bludger of a season for this club, this weekend, the man that turned mumbling into a new language, the man with the most perfect locks in the coaching business, Des Hasler, is going to celebrate his 500th game as a head coach in the NRL this weekend. That's right, Desi, the man that I met, 2 years ago in the tunnels up at the Gold Coast Titans, is going to be only the 6th coach to coach 500 games. There's a lot of 6s and 5s there, Shedheads, 500 games. And if you look at this, here's how these coaches stamp out. Wayne Bennett at 956, Tim Sheens at 693. Look at the difference. Bennett at 956, you drop all the way down to 693 for number 2 in the box. But Timmy Sheens, Brian Smith at 601, Bellyache at 594, Sticky, Ricky Stewart at 534, and now Desi Hasler at 500. I will say, even though it's been a really trying couple of seasons up at the Gold Coast, I won't remember Des Hasler as being the Gold Coast Titans head coach. And that's nothing against Gold Coast and nothing against these last couple of seasons for Desi. I'm always going to remember Des Hasler coaching Manly and him coaching that side in that 2011 season when he had the players that he had leading, DCE in his rookie year, and Kieran Foran when he still looked like a member of the Beatles with his long hair, and Killer, and the Stewart brothers, and the Wolfman David Williams, and that team right there. And I can't think of a better coach that kind of fit that mob than Des Hasler. And he had a couple of great, really good years too with the Dogs. He got the Dogs to the grand final with Benny Barber and Mick Ennis with that club. But those are the coaching performances I'm going to always remember with Des Hasler, and that are going to always have a special place in my heart for as much as I loved those Manly teams in the early 2010s. But congratulations to Coach Hasler. I know for sure it's not the way he'd like to have got to 500 games, but he got there. And to be with these, with these 5 other coaches now, is something that he'll go down as one of the greater coaches in NRL history. So congratulations to Des Hasler, and come on, the best flow in the game in the coaching industry, Desi. So congratulations to Des Hasler. Now, Shedheads, as we go into our picks for round 21, again, I said this earlier, we've got some incredible matches for the next 6 weeks. It's just going to be off the charts. Starting off, first game out of the blocks, Storm versus the Roosters. I just told you a little bit earlier that Chad Townsend has been sat down and Sandon Smith is back in the halves for the Chooks, and that Wishart is playing in the halves with Jerome Hughes for the Storm because of Munster going to his father's funeral. So we've got a different halves pairing than we've had for a little bit, but I'm going to take the Chooks. I think the Roosters know what they have to do. I know that they know the run home that they're going to have, and they better get a victory over a Storm team that isn't going to have their best team on the park. So I'm going to take the Roosters to get that victory. It's going to be tight, but we know that, again, like I said, just a few minutes ago, that the Storm do not play incredibly well in night matches this season. So I'm taking the Chooks to get the victory to start off round 21. Friday, Dragons versus the Cowboys. I'm easily going with the Dragons. Yes, they've been snake bit. Yes, they've had bad losses this year where they were so close and no luck by their side, but they're still playing hard. They're playing tough footy, and just because the breaks don't go your way doesn't mean that you're not playing solid, strong footy. Well, on the other hand, the Cowboys' defense is horrendous, and because of that reason, I don't see it changing, and I've got the Dragons beating the Cowboys. The nightcap for the Friday night, Eels versus the Broncos. I think the Broncos right now are flowing. They're flying. Rousey is kind of mix matching and checking, players going forward in the future for the Eels. So I think this is going to be a speed bump for the Broncos. I think they're going to get the victory and get it handily at Suncorp Stadium. Saturday, Titans versus the Waz. Again, game 500 for Dez. I don't think it's going to get any easier. I think the Waz are going to have incredible fan turnout at the Rumble Islands. But I got the Waz winning that pretty handily too. Tigers versus the Panthers. Jerome Luai going up against his former club. He's going to want to play one of his better performances. He hasn't played great footy. And you saw Luai with the flowing locks, not wearing his helmet last week. That kind of shocked me. And it was different to see. So we'll see if he's back in the helmet this week or not. But I don't think helmet or no helmet, it's going to make much of a difference. Arrested Yohan Cleary. I got the Panthers winning this and making it 7 on the trot. Sharks versus the Rabbitohs. Again, the Sharkies are rounding into form. This Rabbitohs club is struggling right now. And it isn't going to get any better. I got the Sharks finishing up and rounding out Super Saturday with a victory over the Rabbitohs. And then Sunday, definitely going to have one of the matches of the round, but it starts off Knights versus the Raiders. It is down at GIO Stadium. I've got the Raiders getting the victory again and keep marching towards that minor premiership. And then Sea Eagles versus the Bulldogs. This match, like I said, probably could come down. Maybe that Chooks versus the Storm match could rival it. But I think this is going to be an incredible match. But I've got the Sea Eagles beating the Dogs in, I guess you could say, a minor upset. I just think that right now the Sea Eagles are playing really good football. They've won 3 in a row. And I think the Dogs, even though they got that victory last week, I think that they're going to be outed a little bit by the Sea Eagles play this week. So let's go over those picks. We got the Roosters, the Dragons, the Broncos, the Warriors, the Panthers, the Sharks, the Raiders, and the Sea Eagles to round out the picks for round 21. My gun of the round, man, it was tough. There was a couple guys I could have gone from for this team, but I'm going with Jake Averillo. I said I was really excited to see Jake actually get the nod, and once he got the baton handed to him, run with it. 2 tries, 196 running meters, 1 line break assist, 3 tackle breaks, 8 tackles made, and 69 kicking meters. Okay, Katoa had over 400 kicking meters. I know 69 is not much, but again, Averillo getting the baton, running with it, and I don't think you're going to see Averillo out of the halves for the rest of the season. I really don't. I think that Christian Wolf is going to see how that team matched out. He's got now an explosive running half to go with, to match up with maybe the future great. It's number 7 he's got there. So congratulations to Jake Averillo. I think it is a little bit of applause for Big Jake. I think it was just a moment that he's going to be able to savor for a while because he got the opportunity and he did something with it. So congratulations to him. Now, Shedheads, take in this round 21. We've got some incredible matches. I don't even know. I can't even tell you what the storylines are going to be next week, but I'm very excited to see what this round has in store for us. But like I say, time and time again, look after each other. Enjoy this weekend. Try to spend some time with people that mean the most to you. Look out for somebody who you don't know. Try to make somebody smile. That's the one thing. That's your homework for this week, Shedheads. Make somebody else smile who you don't like. That you don't know. I don't care if you like them or not. That you don't know. But until next week, like I said, stay safe out there. This has been Outside the Sheds. I'm your Shedadamus, Corey Jackson. Until next week, see ya.
And that was another fantastic episode of Outside the Sheds with Corey Jackson, talking all things NRL and all things sports. So please remember to smash the subscribe button and share this with your family and friends and show them what Australian sport is all about.